like, and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment for more. Evil-emperors-wild-consort. Chapter 1 to 10. Chapter 1, Shameless Man, 1. The East Peak mainland. A strong wind blew past the top of a tall mountain. Shahruyan stood silently at the peak of the mountain, her black hair tangled with the wind as her cold gaze focused on a group of people. There was a luxuriously dressed middle-aged man within that group. The indifference and coldness in the man's eyes wrapped around her heart, chilling her from head to toe. Shahruyan, after running for so long, let's see where you can escape to now. The middle-aged man sneered coldly. His gaze was as if he were looking at an irreconcilable enemy, as if the girl in front of him did not carry his blood in her veins. The ancient divine pagoda was something that grandfather gave to me while he was alive. I won't give it to anyone no matter what. Shahruyan's voice held the hatred that she was unable to suppress. Back then, because of a single sentence from her grandfather, the one who marries the Yun family's daughter will become the young master of the Shah family. It was because of that sentence that this so-called father of hers abandoned his childhood lover and strove to win the favor of her mother. And on the very month that her mother was married to him, he brought his lover into the Shah family and made her a concubine. As the Shah family's young master, he could have as many concubines as he wanted, and her mother could do nothing but spend her days in tears. If grandfather had not felt sorry for her, she was afraid that her mother would have had no status at all in the Shah family. Sha Ming's expression fell, and he said bitterly, "You vicious woman. The ancient divine pagoda originally belonged to Chu Shui. You're still trying to rationalize your actions after snatching it away from her. Don't forget, when Chu Shui was born, there was a vision from heaven and the diviner told us that she's the reincarnation of the ancient phoenix Zixi. My father was senile in his old age, otherwise he wouldn't have given the ancient divine pagoda to you. Now that he has passed away, I will correct this mistake." Ha ha ha. Shahruyan laughed out loud, her laughter continued echoing in the mountain valley for a long time. Have you forgotten that the day Shah Chu Shui was born, was also the day of my birth? Grandfather must have had a reason for giving me the ancient divine pagoda, but you. She laughed mockingly. In order to take the ancient divine pagoda, you tortured me, and when my mother tried to save me, you tortured her to her death. My maternal grandfather and his family were also destroyed by your own hands. Are you even still human? For the sake of another daughter, you didn't even hesitate to kill your own wife. HMPH. Sha Ming snorted coolly, and said with a cold face, she was not worthy of being my wife. Even if she had not died for your sake, I wouldn't have let her live anyway. Only with her dead, can my beloved woman take her place. Shahruyan shut her eyes in grief, her mother's bleak look still carved into her heart. She completely gave up. She had intended to give up the ancient divine pagoda her grandfather had entrusted to her in exchange for her mother's life, but her mother had seemed to know what she wanted to do and used her death to protect the ancient divine pagoda. Even now, thinking about it caused a piercing pain in her heart. Sha Ming, you will definitely regret all that you have done. A man as treacherous and ruthless as you will one day be spurned by everyone, never to make a comeback. Regret. Sha Ming laughed condescendingly. Do you know what rumors are spreading outside now? You, Shahruyan, in extreme arrogance, provoked an enemy you shouldn't have. And that enemy massacred the Yun family after failing to find you. And I, Sha Ming, am currently in deep mourning and pain after your mother's death. Even Chu Shui fainted out of sadness. Only you, this daughter, after bringing them disaster, are in hiding, a coward, but, ha ha ha. Your mother wasn't even buried in the Shah family's ancestral graves. Her corpse has already been thrown into a mass grave for the wolves to feast on. Our Shah family's ancestral graves are not for just any woman to enter. Chapter 2, Shameless Man, 2. Shahruyan's body began to tremble. She opened her eyes wide, staring dead on at the man before her with hatred. Sha Ming, you're shameless. Shameless. Sha Ming laughed loudly, the winner takes all. You have only yourself to blame for everything that has happened, and it was you who dragged your mother into this. So the one who really killed her, was you. The one who really killed her, was you. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Shahruyan burst into laughter. That wild laughter, full of insanity, echoed around the entire mountain without a break. Sha Ming, you shameless bastard. I'll drag you down to hell to apologize to my mother right now. Just die with me now. An imposing aura began rising from her body, causing the whole sky to turn overcast and cold. That's bad. Sha Ming's expression changed, and he said hastily, she wants to explode herself. Shah Ruyan was the #1 talent in the Shah family who had reached the martial senior class at a young age. When he had launched a sneak attack on her, he would not have severely injured her if he had not used the ultimate technique of the Yun family. Even so, the explosion of a severely injured martial senior would be enough to drag all the people here into hell. Poochie. The muffled sound of something piercing a chest rang out in the quiet and secluded valley. Shah Ruyan's body stiffened, lowering her head to look at the sword that had come from behind, then turning her head in disbelief. Her gaze fell on the distinct lines of that handsome face. Lu Chen, you. She had known earlier that Lu Chen had come. But because it was Lu Chen, she had let down her guard. Who would have thought that the man she trusted the most would want to kill her? Bang! Power burst out from her body, and in an instant, the sword in her chest faded into bits and pieces. She clutched the endlessly bleeding wound, gaze filled with pain, not understanding. Why do you want to kill me? The last two words were stuck in her throat, unable to come out. A trace of guilt and sadness passed between Lu Chen's brows, but it disappeared in the next instant. Yuner, I'm sorry. I'm a man with great ambitions. Although you're in my heart and my most beloved, Chu Shui is the reincarnation of the ancient phoenix Zixi, and the real owner of the ancient divine pagoda. She's the only one who can become the strongest power on this mainland once she gets the ancient divine pagoda. Only by marrying her, will I be able to have the entire world in my hands, so, I have my own problems. Shah Ruyan's face was pale to the point of fright, not daring to believe that the person who had sworn his love for her, would draw his sword against her in this instant. Suddenly, she seemed to have remembered something, and rushed crazily at Lu Chen. Where's Yuer? I entrusted Yuer to you, what have you done to him? Shah Ruyan seized Lu Chen's collar tightly, shouting crazily without caring about the pain in her body. Her mother was dead, her maternal grandfather's family had been killed, her little brother was the only kin she had left. Because of her trust in Lu Chen, and not wanting to drag her brother into danger, she had entrusted her brother to Lu Chen to protect. But now, Shah Ruyan's body trembled, dread showing on that pale face, causing a twinge of pain in Lu Chen's heart. However, he quickly hardened his heart and said, bring out Sha Linyu. After a long while, a half-dead young boy was brought over in someone's hands, his frail body looking extremely delicate in the strong winds, as if he would be carried away by the winds at any time. Chapter 3, Shameless Man 3. Yuer. Her voice held heartbreaking pain as tears slid down from her eyes. Seeming to have heard the woman's desperate cry, the teenage boy finally moved. He opened his tired eyes, clear pupils gazing straight at Shah Ruyan, thin lips trembling lightly, with a weak voice, big sister. Cough cough. Shah Ruyan coughed out 2 mouthfuls of fresh blood, her blood-soaked figure dazzling under the sun's rays. Let him go. Let him go. Give us the ancient divine pagoda, and I'll let him off. Lu Chen let the emotions on his face fade away and gazed coldly at Shah Ruyan. Even if women were important, they could never compare to power. With might at hand, wouldn't he be able to have any woman he wanted? Shah Ruyan's face turned even more pale. Her eyes turned towards the cold, cruel middle-aged man behind her, and said one word at a time, Yuer is your son, the bloodline of your Shah family. Ha ha. Sha Ming laughed twice and said callously, in the bloodline of Sha Ming, there is only Chu Shui alone. Sha Linyu, this sickly, useless good-for-nothing, isn't qualified to be my son. However, to obtain the ancient divine pagoda, even if he dies, it would be a worthy death. Shah Ruyan's body trembled once and she slowly closed her eyes. She only opened them after a long while, a gentle gaze shining on the teenage boy's wounded and scarred body. Yuer, will you be afraid? Sha Linyu stubbornly shook his head, I'm not afraid. Big sister, don't give them the ancient divine pagoda, otherwise, mother and grandfather would have died in vain. I believe that, one day, big sister will avenge my death. Bang! Lu Chen stomped on Sha Linyu's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face turning ever paler. Men. Lu Chen raised his brows and said without any expression, dig out Sha Linyu's heart, and tear his limbs off while he's alive. The man's cold voice rang like a hammer, knocking fiercely on Shah Ruyan's heart. She roared angrily in heartbreak, Lu Chen, you bastard, I shouldn't have entrusted Yuer to you to protect, I'm the one who killed my own precious little brother. 2 men pressed Sha Linyu to the floor, and an icy sword slashed towards his limbs, fresh blood splashed out dyeing her pupils in red. No, Shah Ruyan hoarsely shouted, with bloodshot eyes, let Yuer go, if you let him go, I'll. Big sister. The faint voice was feeble, but in this valley, it clearly fell on Shah Ruian's ears. Don't give them the ancient divine pagoda. Only with the ancient divine pagoda can you avenge mother, otherwise I would rather die. Poochie. The sword fiercely stabbed through Sha Linyu's chest, his last words lost within his throat. Sha Linyu laid in the pool of blood, eyes open as if wanting to say something at the last. At this moment, he felt his life disappearing, gaze full of attachment and dismay. He can finally meet mother again, but what about big sister? He was already the last of her family. If he died, how much pain and loneliness would big sister feel? Sha Ruian spit out a mouthful of her heart's blood, stumbling as she ran towards Sha Linyu. It was all my fault, I trusted others, and caused your death. Grandpa is dead, mother is dead, even grandfather has also died, you're the only one by my side. If there's an afterlife, I'll give you a lifetime of peace, and I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Chapter 4, Good for Nothing, 1. Sha Ruian slowly stood up, black tresses dancing in the wind. As she lifted her head, her face was full of madness that had never been there before. I want all of you to accompany you in death. Boom. In that moment, the sky lost color. Thunder boomed and lightning struck fiercely, lighting up that dark stretch of sky. Even after such a severe injury, she still has the strength to explode. Sha Ming's expression changed, and his face fell. He had to admit this daughter had great talent, but unfortunately, she was not born from his most beloved woman, so if he let her continue to grow, Chu Shui and her mother would only feel aggrieved. No matter what, he did not want to see that happen. For the sake of the other daughter he favors, he could only give up on this rotten seed that should never have been born. Ha ha ha. Sha Ruian laughed crazily, her laughter filled with intense hatred. She shouted angrily, Sha Ming, Lu Chen, even if I die today, I'll be able to avenge them. Unfortunately, Sha Chu Shui isn't here, otherwise, wouldn't it be so nice to go to hell together? Boom. The powerful force scattered out from her body, causing the rocks in the valley to fall, accompanying the woman's mad laughter and causing Sha Ming's heart to tremble. However, nothing happened. The whole valley fell silent once again. Poochie. Sha Ruian sprayed out a mouthful of blood. Kneeling heavily on one knee with a steady stream of blood spraying out from her mouth, she glared with unwillingness and hatred at the people before her. Why did you stop me from exploding? She looked down, her fists clenched tightly and her feeble voice tinged with anger. At that moment, she had felt the ancient divine pagoda stopping her self-combustion, and it was the first time she had felt any movement from the ancient divine pagoda since receiving it. You don't want my soul to disappear. But if I can't even avenge them, then what do I need this soul for? Even if my soul scatters and disappears forever, I want to drag them down into hell with me. Sha Ruian's voice shook. Right now, she no longer had the strength to explode again. I'm sorry, your sister is useless, I couldn't even avenge you. Tears trickled endlessly from her cheeks, falling and seeping into the ground. Suddenly, she laughed loudly again. I, Sha Ruian, hereby swear, that one day I'll let these people who once hurt us pay it back. Blood. For blood. I'll let them fall into the point beyond redemption. Even if I have to pay with my eternal life in hell. The woman's voice, like a curse, lingered in Lu Chen's ears. It gave rise to a sudden panic in his heart to the point that he did not dare to look into those eyes full of bone-deep hatred. Poochie. Sha Ruian spat out another mouthful of blood as her gaze passed steadily over the faces of each person before her, as if trying to remember them, as if carving their appearance deep into her mind. Her organs are already failing, she won't live for long. Sha Ming looked callously upon the woman on the ground, as if that woman were not his daughter, but instead his mortal enemy. Sha Ruian, bring out the ancient divine pagoda. Hey, Sha Ruian sneered, her arms tightly holding onto the young man's limbless body, she slowly stood up. Without any hesitation, holding Sha Linyu's body, she turned and jumped off the cliff. Not good. Sha Ming's face paled, and darkened in an instant. Men, go search, and find her body. I don't believe that we won't be able to find the ancient divine pagoda. Chapter 5, Good for Nothing, 2. West Spirit Mainland, in Azure Dragon Country. Within a remote backyard of the general's mansion, a young woman crossed her legs, holding a stalk of straw in the corner of her mouth, as she sat slovenly on the bed. The West Spirit Mainland. As if talking to herself, Sha Ruian's lips curved up slightly. Looks like I've reincarnated from the East Peak Mainland to the West Spirit Mainland. I wonder if the heavens gave me a chance for rebirth because they couldn't bear Sha Ming's actions. There are countless mainlands within this world. Even though the East Peak and West Spirit mainlands were next to each other, the West Spirit mainland ranked at the bottom, and only people with strength that reached a certain point could step into the East Peak mainland. And the previous Sha Ruian came from the East Peak mainland. However, what she had not expected was that this Gu Ruian was a complete and utter good for nothing compared to her previous level of talent. Even at the age of 15, she had not even reached the most basic third level of cultivation. Even the servants in the general's mansion had reached at least the fourth level or above. Of course, this Gu Ruian had a tragic life. Orphaned at an early age, she was a dispensable existence in everyone's eyes. If not for the protection of her genius older brother, she would have been unable to take even a single step. However, not long ago, her genius brother had been accepted as a disciple by a mysterious power, and he was forced to leave Azure Dragon Country. Who would have known that, just days after he had departed, the young master of Ling family would deliberately mock him in front of Gu Ruian, and she would start a fight with him for the sake of her brother, and get beaten half to death by the Ling family's servants. The funniest part was that her own grandfather, the great general of the general's household, would indiscriminately beat her to death. Thinking of this, Gu Ruian's lips formed a cold sneer. Gu Ruian, since I've occupied your body, I have become you. Rest assured, I'll take revenge for you, just take it as the compensation for taking your body. After she said so, the door opened. When the person standing at the doorway met with Gu Ruian's pair of deep black eyes, she was clearly taken aback. Gu Ruian, you're not dead. This Gu Ruian, she was actually this lucky. She was still living after being beaten to that point by grandfather. Of course. Did you really want me dead? Gu Ruian's thin lips curved up, smiling faintly at her. HMPH. Gu Panpan snorted, since you didn't die, then go to the guest hall, grandfather is waiting for you. After saying so, she turned her head and left. Gu Ruian slightly narrowed her eyes. From going through her memories, she knew that the ever-arrogant Gu Panpan was her second uncle's daughter, while Panpan's older brother Gu Shangalin was a genius second only to her own older brother Gu Shengshao. Thus, to help Gu Shangalin vent his frustrations, she frequently bullied Gu Ruian when Gu Shengshao was not at home. To avoid adding to her brother's worries, Gu Ruian had never told him. In the guest hall, just as Gu Ruian walked in, she saw the old General Gu seated on the high seat, while an old man and a young man sat to his lower right. Without even needing to guess, the old man was clearly the head of the Ling family, Ling Yi, while the young man was the culprit who had caused Gu Ruian to be beaten to death, the Ling family's young master. Gu Ruian, you finally awakened. General Gu threw a piercing gaze at Gu Ruian and said with a serious face, how dare you beat up the Ling family's young master in the streets? Apologize to him right now. With one of the highest-ranking imperial concubines sitting in the palace, the Ling family was not one he could afford to offend. If it could appease the Ling family, what was the sacrifice of a good-for-nothing? What he did not expect was that his cowardly granddaughter would have courage of this magnitude. Unfortunately, she was just a good-for-nothing. If she had been a genius just like her brother, even the imperial concubine would not dare to touch her. TL note, the author reveals more about the cultivation levels later, but you can look at the glossary to find out how their cultivation system works. Gu Ruian is level 2, which is considered very weak in their world. Sha Ruian was previously a martial senior class. So now Sha Ruian has reincarnated into Gu Ruian, the good-for-nothing daughter of the general. Chapter 6, Good for Nothing 3. Apologize. Gu Ruian laughed coldly, did you hit your head on something? I beat the Ling family's young master. Don't forget, I'm only a good-for-nothing Qi level 2. The Ling family's young master has already reached Qi level 5. Do tell how I was able to beat him up. If you fought with the #1 expert in Azure Dragon Country, and someone said that you managed to beat him up, would you also believe them? Old General Gu's face turned livid, he slammed his palm on the table with a bang, and said angrily, vile spawn. How dare you ignore even your grandfather's commands? Since the Ling family has already said that it's your fault, then you definitely provoked them first. Kneel down immediately until they forgive you. Ha ha. Gu Ruian laughed twice, a trace of ridicule spread on the curve of her lips. He was obviously the one who was jealous of my brother's talent and the one who humiliated him first, but now in your words, I'm the one who provoked him. So not only did you hit your head, even your eyes were blinded. The Ling family's young master is standing there without a scratch and he's the one who was bullied. I'm standing here covered in wounds, but I've become the one who beat him up. Grandfather, you're really helping a stranger over family and reason. Old General Gu was momentarily frozen in shock. He no longer cared about getting angry, but looked at Gu Ruian with astonishment. This was the granddaughter who had always been cowardly. When had she become so eloquent in speech? Who are you? Suddenly, old General Gu's expression deepened, and a wave of murderous intent filled the entire hall. Even though Gu Ruian was currently too weak, she could still use her mental strength to overcome this murderous intent. However, doing so would definitely expose her, a risk she was not willing to take, so she let the murderous intent wash over her. Oh, now you want to kill me. Gu Ruian raised her small pale face, saying with a mocking smile, anyway, you've already beaten me to death once. If my body had been just a little weaker, I wouldn't have been able to hold up. If you want to kill me, just kill me now. I just wonder how you'll account for this when my brother comes back. Old General Gu slightly narrowed his eyes. Actually, after killing Gu Ruian, he had already started to regret his actions. Even if Gu Ruian was a good-for-nothing, she still had a protective older brother. Had she not refused to admit her mistake, he would not have lost his head and laid such a heavy hand on her. Fortunately, this good-for-nothing had only stopped breathing for a short moment, and her heartbeat had quickly resumed. However, how could old General Gu know that brief moment was enough for the soul in this body to change? HMPH, if you're Gu Ruian, then I would have to account to Shengshao, but too bad, you're not her. Old General Gu stated coldly, so who are you? That useless good-for-nothing Gu Ruian would never have been able to speak like that. In a moment, the entire hall focused their gazes on Gu Ruian's comely face. Gu Ruian acted as if she did not feel their gazes, and smiled as she said in objection, wouldn't you be the clearest on whether I am Gu Ruian or not? These few years, I've been pretending to be cowardly and weak for the sake of peace, but after this incident, I have decided that even if I'm a good-for-nothing, I won't continue being cowardly. If I continue being weak, you will only continue bullying me. Upon hearing this, understanding bloomed in everyone's minds. No wonder this good-for-nothing had this much courage, her cowardice had only been an act. Now this actually makes sense. Bang! Ling Yi was outraged and coldly said, Gu Ruian, this old man was born protective, I don't care if you're right or wrong. You have to kneel down and admit your wrongs today, or I won't care if you have a genius brother or not, I'll let you die right here. Glancing at Ling Yi's sullen old face, Gu Ruian laughed, you want to act against me, a junior. Aren't you afraid that all the people of Azure Dragon Country will mock you for bullying the weak? Then what do you want? Why don't we do it like this? Let your grandson fight with me. Chapter 7, Good for Nothing 4. What? At this moment, everyone thought she was crazy. A Chi level 2 was having delusions of facing a Chi level 5. Was she sure she had not gone crazy? Grandfather, I'll agree. Without waiting for Ling Yi to finish speaking, young Master Ling abruptly stood up, condescendingly looking over Gu Ruian, who was shorter than him by a head. Gu Ruian, this is your own death wish. This young master agrees to your challenge. Prepare for the fight now. Hold on. Young Master Ling was about to attack, when a sudden shout interrupted his action. He withdrew his hands and sneered, what are you doing? Finally scared. If you're scared then kneel down, kowtow and call me grandfather 3 times, maybe I'll even take mercy on your life. Gu Ruian's lips hooked upwards, if I was scared, I wouldn't even challenge you, but I'm not proposing that we duel today, but a month later. Haha. Young Master Ling laughed twice, Gu Ruian, I finally understand, aren't you just trying to live for another month? This young master isn't someone without mercy, I'll just let you live for another month's time. Grandfather, let's go, after 1 month, I'll come back and kill this damn good for nothing. We can even help the general's mansion save some food. The meaning of these words was obvious, if I, young Master Ling, were to kill Gu Ruian, it would be purely for the sake of the general's mansion. Doesn't raising such a good for nothing waste a lot of food? So, the general's mansion cannot put any blame on me, you even need to thank me instead. Looking at the Ling family's disappearing silhouettes, old General Gu's face turned black. From his view, it would not have mattered if Gu Ruian had died, as long as it was not at his hands, but now this good for nothing had grown some daring and wanted to duel with the Ling family's young master. Wasn't this just throwing the reputation of the general's household? If it were not for her, he would not have been humiliated by the Ling family. HMPH. Thinking up till now, old General Gu took a deep breath, fiercely shook his sleeves, and walked out of the hall without leave, not even looking at Gu Ruian from start to end. Gu Ruian, you've really overestimated your own strength. Gu Panpan glanced at Gu Ruian with disdain, mocking, just by yourself, you've deluded yourself into thinking you can duel with young Master Ling. Don't you know who he is? His aunt is the emperor's favorite concubine, and he's the disciple of the #1 expert in Qinglong. With Qinglong's top expert as a teacher, did you really think he would be afraid of your brother? After throwing out these words, Gu Panpan snorted disdainfully and walked away. Dot 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 dot. At the back of the mountain, a refreshing wind was blowing. Gu Ruian sat on top of a rock, eyes closed in thought. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, radiance shining in her sparkling jewel-like gaze. Right, the ancient divine pagoda, I wonder how it's like now. That day, if the ancient divine pagoda had not stopped her, she would have died along with Sha Ming, and even her soul would not have been left. Right now, she still has the chance to enter the Dongyu mainland and avenge her mother and maternal grandfather. However, the ancient divine pagoda had already fused into her body. How would she go about removing it? I'll think about that later. Let's see exactly which part of my body the ancient divine pagoda has settled in first. Saying so, Gu Ruian closed her eyes, letting her spiritual consciousness scan her body. At this point, she suddenly found that her spiritual ocean was much larger than normal. From general knowledge, when martial artists begin cultivating, their spiritual power was all condensed into the spiritual ocean. Once the spiritual ocean had filled up, the martial artist could then break through into the next level. Normal martial artists had spiritual oceans the size of a bowl, but the spiritual ocean in Gu Ruian's body was as vast as the real ocean, and this was the reason behind her slow cultivation. Since there were no real strong martial artists in Qinglong, they would not know of the benefits of having such a vast spiritual ocean. The more strength you gathered, the more bottlenecks you would begin to encounter, and to break through the bottleneck, you needed to have the martial artist's ability of enlightenment. And the wider the spiritual ocean, the stronger the chance of achieving enlightenment. If she had had such a vast spiritual ocean in her past life, perhaps she would have already broken through martial senior class and achieved martial supreme. Even in the Dongyu mainland, the martial supreme class was an existence that numbered only a handful, and upon reaching this level, you could even make yourself an emperor. Qinglong's top expert was only at the peak of martial general, so you can see what a fearsome existence a martial supreme is. Suddenly, Gu Ruian found a small purple pagoda submerged in her spiritual ocean, and her heart lifted in joy. Ancient divine pagoda, I've finally found you. Boom! A powerful wave swept out from her spiritual ocean, heading straight into Gu Ruian's mental consciousness, shaking her to the point that her mind was buzzing. When she recovered her senses again, a hint of purple clothing appeared in front of her. TL note: the author finally explained the cultivation levels. Ranked from top to bottom. Cookie, Chi collection levels 1-8. Wu Jie, martial warrior. Wuxi, martial knight. Wu Jiang, martial general. Wu Wang, martial king. Wu Wang, martial emperor. Wuzhen, martial senior. Wu Di, martial supreme. Wu Sheng, martial saint. Wu Shen, martial god. I updated the previous references to Wuzhen to show martial senior instead. So now we know Gu Ruian was previously a martial senior, but now she's only Chi level 2. However, the highest level on the Qinglong mainland is only a martial general, 3 whole ranks below her previous rank. What a fall! Chapter 8, Ancient Phoenix, Zixi, 1. Gu Ruian's line of sight followed along that long robe, eventually landing on a man's face, and she couldn't look away. In the Dongyu mainland, of all the handsome men she had seen, it was Jin Di who had been the most captivating. However, the man before her was no less mesmerizing than Jin Di, and could even be ranked higher than Jin Di. The man was clothed entirely in purple. His sleeves were embroidered with golden threads, giving off a sense of nobility and splendor. A head of inky black hair was scattered loosely on his back, and an enchanting aroma floated by with a slight breeze. His features were so beautiful to the point that everything else lost their color in an instant. A light wind set his purple clothes slightly flowing, a backdrop that added to the devilish enchantment of the purple flame between his brows. Suddenly, the man raised his hand and a gentle breeze passed by. When Gu Ruian had recovered her senses, she had already fallen into his embrace. So this is the master that the ancient divine pagoda selected. This body feels too skinny, it's not nice to embrace at all. Girl, you need to feed yourself properly. When you grow a little fatter, come warm my bed. Gu Ruian's face darkened instantly. She lifted her leg to kick at him, who knew that the other had already been prepared, and even chuckled as he caught her foot. Girl, you were strong in the past, but now, you're only a little shrimp that's only chi level 2. Did you think that sneak attack would work on me? Gu Ruian withdrew her leg. Looking towards the handsomely noble man in front of her, she asked, who are you? Girl, aren't you too cold? I brought you here from the Dongyu mainland, and you actually forgot who I am. The man said in an aggrieved manner, I did save your life, otherwise your soul would have been scattered to the four winds. From Dongyu mainland. Gu Ruian startled for a moment, you're the ancient divine pagoda. Upon hearing this, the corner of his mouth twitched a few times, the ancient divine pagoda. When have you ever seen a pagoda turn into a human? I'm the ancient divine pagoda's companion beast, Zixi. Zixi. The ancient phoenix Zixi. The people of the Ziling mainland may not have heard of Zixi's existence, but in the Dongyu mainland, it was impossible to find someone who did not know of this name. The ancient phoenix Zixi, said to have the power to create worlds and flatten entire empires with a single breath. His abilities were so strong that they could make anyone's heart stop. However, tens of thousands of years ago, Zixi had long disappeared. Who would have expected him to appear here? Girl, isn't it shocking? Zixi curved his lips, smiling as he said, you have already contracted with the ancient divine pagoda when you were fleeing for your life. As long as your soul remains intact, the pagoda will follow your soul forever. However, I and the pagoda have both been sealed. If you had lifted the seal on the Dongyu mainland, those old monsters would have detected it, so I had no way to help you. I was only able to lift the seal when you arrived here in Ziling. Gu Ruian nodded her head, so that was it. This ancient divine pagoda was gifted to me by my grandfather, I didn't even know what use it had. I can't explain the uses of this pagoda immediately. However, you know that this pagoda was something left behind since the ancient times, so how could a divine artifact from the ancient times be useless? Moreover, Zixi smiled and rubbed Gu Ruian's head, didn't you challenge someone to a duel? With this ancient divine pagoda, within a month, I'll raise your power to exceed his. He knew that Gu Ruian could borrow the combat experience from her previous life, and have a 50% chance of defeating the Ling family's young master, but what he wanted to do, was to let her be completely certain of defeating the enemy. TL note. Interesting fact, Zixi translates to purple evil, which is also why he has a purple flame between his brows, and why he wears purple clothes. While I'm at it, here are some extra notes for other people and place names and their meanings. In Gu Ruian's previous life, her surname was Xia, which means summer. Her current surname, Gu, doesn't have any particular meaning by itself. The given name of Gu Ruian's brother, Gu Shengxiao, means farewell. The Dongyu mainland has the character east in it, while the Ziling mainland has the character west. Qinglong means green dragon. I'll add notes at the bottom of chapters if there are any other interesting meanings behind names later on. Chapter 9, Ancient Phoenix, Zixi 2. Within the ancient divine pagoda, the four walls shone brightly. At the centermost area, there was a medicine cauldron. Gu Ruian eyed the wide and empty pagoda with a measuring gaze, and asked, so this is the ancient divine pagoda? Yes, this is the first level of the ancient divine pagoda. With my current strength, I can only unseal this first level, unsealing the rest of the levels will depend on you. What should I do? Gu Ruian halted her steps and turned to look at Zixi. It's easy. Zixi's line of sight landed on Gu Ruian's face, and his lips hooked up in a slight smile. All you have to do is to break through Chi level 8 and reach martial warrior class, then you'll be able to enter the second level. Every time you break through a level after that, you'll be able to access the rewards within that level. Upon hearing so, Gu Ruian's attention turned to the medicine cauldron within the pagoda. What the first level bestowed upon me, is this medicine cauldron. Yes, Zixi nodded his head, but it's not just this cauldron, there are also some of the most basic pill formulas. With that, he placed a few pill formulas before Gu Ruian's eyes. Qi gathering pill, it will make a martial warrior gathering Qi more sensitive to spiritual Qi, increasing the cultivation speed to 5 times the usual. Marrow cleansing pill, it can cleanse all impurities in the cultivator's body, so that cultivation takes half the effort. Beauty rejuvenation pill, it can make a 50-year-old woman regain the beauty of her 20s in an instant. Without mentioning the last one, even the first 2 pill formulas were enough to move Gu Ruian's heart. Most importantly, tens of thousands of years ago, pill development had been at its peak and there had been numerous pill masters. However, in the middle of the Great World War 10,000 years ago, all the pill masters had been killed, and all the pill refinement books had been destroyed. Up to the present day, not a single person has been able to refine pills again. And there were only some pill powders on the market. Of course, those powders could not be compared to actual pills. One could imagine the shock that Gu Ruian's heart went through after seeing those pill formulas. However, she quickly calmed the excitement in her heart. From this one action, Zixi looked at her with astonishment. If this had happened to someone else, they would probably have been itching to start refining pills. Although these pill formulas are valuable, unfortunately, I've never learned how to refine pills. Even though you gave me formulas and a cauldron, I don't think I have any chance at actually refining some pills. Girl, I didn't expect you to be so different from those greedy humans I usually see. I'm starting to get more and more interested in you. Zixi smiled, and with this smile, the purple flame between his brows shone even more otherworldly. I hope that you can grow quickly, until you can warm my bed, otherwise, it will be rather painful for me to do that with this small body. Gu Ruian tilted her lips in a smile, scanning Zixi up and down with one look. Even if I grow up, you can't grow, right? Looking at the glee in the young girl's gaze, then thinking of the meaning within her words just now, the handsome face momentarily darkened. Girl, even at such a young age, you're already saying such words. Don't forget this body was Gu Ruian's. I've already lived more than 20 years. Oh. Zixi's brows lifted flirtatiously. With a single movement of his large hands, he pulled Gu Ruian into his embrace, slightly narrowing his eyes in threat. Girl, since your soul is already more than 20 years old, why not warm my bed right now? Gu Ruian's expression sank, and she wanted to fight against him, but then a man's deep and mesmerizing laughter sounded by her ear. Unfortunately, girl, I don't have any interest in skinny women. It's not comfortable at all when I hug you. Let's wait until you grow a little fatter, then I'll let you warm my bed. Bang! When the man's hands loosened for a moment, Gu Ruian took the chance to turn and let loose a punch towards the man's face, but just as it was about to connect, a hand appeared in front of him and blocked her fist. Girl, you're really heartless. The man poked Gu Ruian's fist away, smiling as he said helplessly, you just beat people up when you want to, not even leaving any mercy. Anyway, you've already come to the pagoda for quite some time. It's about time for you to leave, or you'll get found out. After you go out, buy all the materials for the chi gathering pill, then I'll teach you how to refine pills. Actually, Zixi did not know that even if Gu Ruian disappeared for a month, the Gu family probably would not even realize. Chapter 10, Refining Pills 1. A light breeze passed by gently, maple leaves slowly fell from tree branches above. Gu Ruian had just walked down from the mountain when a reckless figure appeared in her sights. It was a young girl, about 15 or 16, wearing luxurious silk clothing showing off her perfect figure. However, when you shifted your attention to her face, you could not help but be disappointed. The girl's fair skin was covered in freckles, like stains dirtying a clean white veil, destroying the original impression of beauty. Gu Ruian frowned. She identified the girl before her after a quick search through her mind. However, before she could even start to speak, Luo Yin had already walked in front of her with brisk steps, scanning her from top to bottom once as if not recognizing her. Gu Ruian, I heard that you're going to duel with that Ling family bastard. Gu Ruian lightly stroked her wrist, smiling noncommittally. You're quite well informed. Why, do you think I'm going to lose too? Ha ha. Luo Yin laughed out loud and patted Gu Ruian's shoulder. Gu Ruian, what kind of person are you? I've been saying this since the start, your father was once the greatest talent in Qinglong, it was just a shame that even the heavens were jealous of his talents and let him fall at such a young age. As for your brother, he has already become the current #1 talent. Is Gu Tian's daughter and Gu Shengshao's sister, how could you be a good for nothing? It's just, Gu Ruian, we've been friends for so many years, and you hid this even from me. There were rumors spreading outside now, that Gu Ruian had only been acting weak all these years for the sake of avoiding attention from the outside world. However, as Gu Ruian's best and only friend, she had not been in the know. Thinking of this, Luo Yin was upset and aggrieved. Luo Yin, Gu Ruian looked at the good friend who had been with her for so many years and hesitated for some time, before saying, I need your help with something. What's up? That is, could you lend me some gold coins? Gu Ruian felt somewhat embarrassed as she replied. She had been the eldest daughter of the Shah family's legitimate line in her previous life, who had never been troubled over material matters. However, the present Gu Ruian, as someone treated as a waste of space, was only given 3 copper coins a month. This was nowhere near enough to buy medicinal herbs. Sure, how much do you want? Luo Yin agreed without even needing to think. Gu Ruian was in deep thought for a moment before raising her head to look at Luo Yin's freckled face. I need 100 gold coins. But I'll repay you with something much more valuable than 100 gold coins. She, Gu Ruian, had always disliked owing people. Therefore, she had already thought of using the chi-gathering pills as repayment before asking to borrow money. The price of 1 chi-gathering pill was already far more than just 100 gold coins. 100 gold coins. Luo Yin had thought that Gu Ruian would only want to borrow a few gold coins. She had not expected that Gu Ruian would need that many. Even for her, 100 gold coins was a year's savings. However, Luo Yin understood that, with her pride, Gu Ruian would never even mention borrowing money unless she was forced to. Sure, I'll lend the money to you. Wait for me here, I'll go back home and bring it here. As for repayment, you don't even have that many gold coins to return to me, so just forget about paying it back. When saying so, Luo Yin still had no knowledge of what the reward was. She would only realize that Gu Ruian had not been exaggerating much later on. A single chi-gathering pill was worth much more than 100 gold coins. TL note. Luo Yin is a true friend. Happy crying face. Her given name, Yin, means sound. The given name of Gu Ruian's father, Gu Tian, means sky, or heaven. A name fitting of a legend. Winking face. Like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment for more.